today we have, this is the big one. This is the one I've personally been waiting for. Dreams and Songs to Sing, the Man United episode. We've got lifelong Man United sport, Adrian Harper. Adrian, how are you doing, mate?
How are you doing, lads?
Not too bad. I was doing a lot better about 8 weeks ago before this all started, but, you know, we get by. And I've got Anto pointing me as usual. Anto, I'm just wondering, now, since the last time I spoke to you, Liverpool are back to full training, and now we're seeing photos of happy smiles and Bobby Firmino's new Escobar look. Is this finally happening now? Can we finally get rid of this null and void malarkey?
Yeah, I think they'll be going in the Premier League in the next, probably within the next month, I think. La Liga is back as well, isn't it? They set a date for La Liga earlier today. And unless look, you never know with this thing because everything has changed so quickly, sort of day to day and week to week. So unless there's an enormous surge in positive cases among the players as they start to come back onto the training ground and that, that could scupper it. But it's very likely now that we'll be back, I would say, in mid to late June.
Yeah. And Aders, I ask everyone this question because, you know, it's the only reason we're doing this podcast is because of the lockdown. But when this first happened, Rio Ferdinand and the likes jumped out and said, cancel the season, null and void it, let's go back to zero. And, you know, you saw a lot of people popping up on Facebook and Twitter, suspiciously with Manchester United profile photos saying, yeah, that's a great idea, scratch it. Where do you stand on this? Do you honestly say it's not safe to come back? You agree with Danny Rose and, you know, the likes of Troy Deeney said, no, scrap it. Health is more important. Let's just go back to zero, fit in next season, and nobody gets relegated. No one gets the title. Or do you think do something what they did in Scotland, give Liverpool the title, and whoever gets relegated gets relegated? What do you think?
To be honest, the inner Man United fan in me wants it to be null and void, but with my sensible head on, I think the league has to finish, and it will finish because we're just seeing now a lot more positivity around. Other countries are starting back, and I think more so than just for winning the league. Like, we know Liverpool are miles clear, but I think as regards relegation, it wouldn't be fair to end it as it is. And if there's no promotion, teams like Leeds, who are after investing heavily this year and they deserve to go up, West Brom and Leeds, and to leave it as it is and have no relegation, it wouldn't be fair on them, you know. But deep down, I would like Liverpool not to win the league, but I know that they deserve it, and I do think the league should finish. I think it is like, if you look at it realistically, there's been 6 cases out of 760. So it's been less than the other countries who've gone ahead with their games, and I just think, look, it needs to go ahead. Like, whatever about the lower leagues, the Premier League is financially able to go ahead and start the league, but the leagues lower down, they will be affected, and I think maybe they need to look at it and then come to a final decision, because it could, if they start back, the talk is that a lot of clubs could fold, so most of them want to stay as it is. And that's understandable for that, but I think the Premiership does need to finish as regards the European places and the relegation places especially. I think they need to be decided. Like, we know based on the season, Liverpool do deserve the league. As I say, the Man United fan in me doesn't want to see Liverpool with the Premiership. But
sorry, Aders, the microphone wasn't working there. Can you say that one more time slowly?
The Man United fan in me says Liverpool don't deserve the league. But, sorry, I don't want them to win the league, but they do deserve it.
Aders, we should mention as well, because you were a top player. You were on the books with Sheffield United, played in the Irish Premiership with Glenavon. So, like, as a player, what do you think you'll be thinking now? Because we've heard people like Troy Deeney saying, "Now he doesn't feel right coming back." So, how difficult is it for players to sort of
to come back? Yeah.
Would you feel like, oh well, look, they pay me wages, I have to come back even though I don't feel right? Or how do you think you'll be feeling right now?
Yeah, well, I think, to be honest with you, if you're looking at other countries, they are back playing. You're looking at Germany, Spain are coming back, Italy are coming back. I think we should, if I was a player in that position now, number one, it depends when your contract's up, because if your contract's up soon, you're going to want to get out on the pitch and say, look, I warrant my place for a new contract next year. And you can't do that from sitting at home, you know. Now, I know some people may have reservations. They could have family members who are sick, and that is understandable. I know there will be people, but I think maybe if players had the choice, the squads are big enough in the Premiership, Anto, that if some players don't want to play, other players will. But because one or two don't want to play, I don't think that should stop the whole league coming back. I think more people do want to play than don't want to play.
Yeah.
And look, we know that this virus is going to be here for the foreseeable future. So football is going to start back at some point. It's a case of how long do you leave it. I think football does have to start back at some point.
Yeah.
And if the powers that be deem that it's safe to go ahead with whatever plans they have, I know it's not going to be the same for the fans, but if the powers that be deem it safe for the players to go and play, maybe the players aren't forced to play, but like I say, the squads are big enough that they should be able to go and play. And if I was in that position, I'd love to get back playing again. They've been off for a long time.
And Adrian, I heard about you even before I met you, because we live in a fairly relatively small town, but you hear the names of the lads who go abroad to have trials and join other teams. So I heard, that you were such a promising player back then. But now, and I want to hear more about, what your experience there. But on the topic of getting back, players returning, we should mention that you run your own gym and you're a personal trainer now. So in terms of the players, these are like people who are physically at their peak, and they've basically been shut down for 2 months. And I know that they'll have their home, programs that they'll try to stick to and all that kind of stuff. But how big of a factor is that? Because I was surprised how quickly the Bundesliga came back. Like, they seem to only have about 10 days of training, and then they're back. And then surprise, you watch some of those games today, and they're just kind of walking around for the first 20 minutes. And apparently there was 8 muscle injuries between 6 Bundesliga games last weekend. So in terms of your experience, with fitness and physical kind of peakness, how does this kind of affect? Do you think that when we eventually do get back, we're not going to recognize these players, or what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think mainly at the top half of the table, the teams who are they don't have a lot to play for, and maybe in the middle of the table, you may see slower pace games and lads not at 100%, but I think those who may be near the relegation zone, and if they do come back quickly, you will see injuries, because those lads are going to be pushing themselves harder, because number one, they want to stay in the Premiership. So 10 days to me wouldn't be enough to get you ready to play. If they just want to do it solely to get the games finished and not really put much pressure on people to be going at 100%, then come back and see how you're fixed, because you have a big squad. But if they do want to have games that are good and they're on telly and people are kind of enthusiastic about them, they do need a little bit longer. To be honest, I think now they've had longer off than you would for a pre-season. So you should need maybe 3 or 4 weeks preparation to come back, because you'll pull muscle in, you get muscle injuries from running at high speeds without having done that for a while. I see a lot of the players, they're putting up 5K times online and stuff, and it's great that they're keeping fit, but nothing can prepare you for what you do in a game. It's totally different. And I always found that, especially as I got a little bit older, that when you go from this running and go into them faster paced games, you do start to pick up injuries. And you'll see that more so definitely with the games that have more meaning on them. If there's only a game or two there's not much meaning on it, it'll be like a pre-season friendly. But the games where there's points riding on it for promotion, for relegation, or for getting into the Champions League places, that's when you'll see there will be extra injuries in those games.
Okay. Is there any way, Aders, that you can replicate match fitness? Is there any sort of home training you can do that? I've heard, teams train a lot differently now, so compared to, say, 15, 20 years ago, where there was a lot of hard running, long distance running. Now there's more focus on maybe short, sharp bursts, because that's the way you play the game. So, is there anything that you think those players will be doing in this era that would help them a bit better, or is it just pretty much impossible?
No, this is one thing, Anto, I really admire Liverpool, because they don't pick up many injuries at all. I know they had a couple over the last few weeks there before the break, but one thing I admire about Liverpool is that they can keep going, playing at such high speeds and not pick up injuries. And when you look at the top players in the world, Ronaldo especially, he doesn't get many injuries, or if he does, we don't really know about them, and he's playing through them. But in terms of our home training, there's not a whole lot you can do that's going to replicate that short burst in a match. Like you can run to cones, 5-meter sprints and lateral movements that are kind of what you would do in a game, but nothing's going to prepare you for fighting for a ball or getting to the ball before the opponent. And I think they're the things that people will notice when they come back to games, that, Jesus, I'm off the mark here. Because when you play pre-season friendlies, you start your training at the beginning of July or the end of June, and you'll do 2 or 3 weeks of running, and you're gradually building up to a full game. So you might be playing a lower league side. Like you'll see Liverpool might play smaller games, and people are playing 45 minutes. They've got a big squad, like 20 at a match, and everyone gets 45 minutes, and it's gradually working up to the start date that's maybe 6 or 8 weeks later. But when you're doing that from, say, going from now to 10 days into a full-scale Premiership match, that the body's not really going to be able for that based on what you've been doing for the previous few weeks. You know, you haven't done anything. Like they're back training now, but they're only training in 2s and 3s. It looks like it's more so running and passing and shooting drills rather than actually small-sided games, which that's what's needed to bring you up to speed. So hopefully there won't be too many injuries, but there probably will be, you know, based on what's happening in the other countries.
Could you kind of give us an idea, Aders, of like when you were at Sheffield United, which was probably sort of early, not, you know, the start of the turn of the millennium, like what was the training like then? Like how, I mean, it's obviously things have evolved a lot, but what kind of stuff would you have been doing in pre-season?
So I loved pre-season just because like I was a cross-country runner in school when I was younger, and I just loved the fitness element of it. So we had Neil Warnock, like when I got into the train with the first team. So for my first 2 years there, it was just with the youth team. But then when I was there for 5 years in total. So for my 3rd, 4th and 5th year, the first team and the reserves trained together for pre-season. So like for me, it was like that was the best time of season for me, because it was when I got to show that I was the fittest there out of every single player for those 3 years. So, well, based on bleep test run. So you'd do a bleep test on the first day you got back, and you'd like kind of be into 2-a-day training. And Neil Warnock, he had these 400-meter drills. So it's basically like a track around the pitch, like 2 pitches joined together, 2 of the training pitches. And he had a track with like small little barriers based in them. They weren't like they were just basically 2 flagpoles with a piece of tape tied across them, and you'd have some that you had to duck under and others that you had to jump over. Real old school stuff, but I loved it, you know. So basically you'd have 60 seconds if you were in the top group. We were in the top group. So on the first day of training, you'd have your bleep test. The next day after that, you'd be into your 400s, which would continue for 2 weeks. So you would start that you had to get all your 400-meter hurdle runs under 70 seconds. So when you got back after you're being in under 70 seconds, the other groups would go. So there was 4 groups, group 1, 2, 3, and 4. And he would set you off then. You wouldn't get more than 90 seconds recovery. So it was really hard to go and kind of push yourself on in them when you didn't have much recovery in between. Then the next day he would drop it by 3 or 4 seconds, and it gradually got down that if you wanted to stay in the top group, you would have to get under 60 seconds. So they were his kind of trademark.
Right.
Then you'd get into ball-based drills, so a lot of chain running. So basically what you'd be doing, you'd be in groups of 5 or 6, and you would go off in a chain run, basically the length of the pitch, and you'd have cones set up. So the first person would run out to the first cone and back, and then you pick up the second person. But it was a race, so you're racing against the other lads, and like everyone wanted to impress, especially the younger lads. So it was kind of like the older pros in pre-season would be getting on our case because they didn't want to go so fast. They knew they were going to be picked anyway. But we were kind of looking to get into his thoughts, and we'd be kind of pushing it as hard as we can. So it was kind of, his stuff was all old school stuff, and not much with a ball for the first 2 weeks. But like I say, I loved that because I loved running, and fitness was my life. So it's kind of...
Sorry, Adis, what kind of misconceptions or do you think that, or like myths about a lad that goes over from Ireland to Sheffield United? Because, like I said, I was very naive when I heard about it. You know, I just thought, oh wow, he's gone to Sheffield United. That means he's made it. You know, some people think once you get on their books, you're going to make it. And
Yeah.
what kind of like misconceptions would you say? Like, I mean, what kind of like things do you remember from that period that was difficult? Like, did you ever suffer from homesickness? Did you kind of go over there because you were very young? Did you go over there thinking? There was a part of you thinking, I've made it, you know, and somehow, you know, if I don't make it here, I'm going to make it somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, what could you tell us about, like, because the average man in the street says, oh, you know, my mate is signed for Sheffield, you know, he's like, bing, he's done it. So what could you tell us about that kind of time of going over there?
Yeah, so at the time I had a choice to go to Celtic or Sheffield United, and I actually got homesick the week I went to Celtic. I went over to Celtic a couple of times, and a funny story. I went on my first trial with Celtic, and I had a Man United coat on me. I was only maybe 14, and the Celtic, like, I didn't support Celtic at all. Like, I'm your typical Irish lad that he likes Celtic and doesn't like Rangers, but I didn't support them. Like, I'd watch their games, but I wasn't an out and out supporter. So I got to the airport, and the scout was there, and he said, "Look, you're gonna have to take that off you." And I thought he was messing, but he was serious. He goes, "No, look, it's if you're going over there, you want to show them that you follow Celtic as well, you know." So it probably didn't get off to the best start. But anyway, I went over, and I did enjoy it, but I did feel a little bit more homesick. But when I went to Sheffield, you were based in a house, so we were in digs, and we were living with like 3 or 4. Well, sorry, I wasn't living, but I was going over for my week trials.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd go over, and there was 3 or 4 lads in the house, and there was a lady there looking after you, and it was kind of just like being at home where your meals were made for you. So I kind of went from going to Celtic, where you were staying in a kind of a university. They were on their break from school at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was when I was 14, but you went to Sheffield then, which was much more homely. So I got a better feel, and when they offered me a contract, I was like, yeah, I was delighted. So I knew from like, I was in school, and I knew I would be leaving school. I was all right in school, to be honest. I wasn't bad, but I knew I was going over to England when I was 16. And it was a big step for my parents to let me go, you know, because my mum and dad would have finished school, and they wanted me to maybe, in the back of their mind, they wanted me to finish school, but they also were thinking, if I don't go over, I'm going to miss a year or two of my development. So from the age of 14, 15, I knew I was going over to England when I was 16. And I kind of took less interest in school.
Okay, so Anto, this question's for you, and then I want to hear Ada's thoughts. Basically, Liverpool and Manchester United completely changed in the early 90s when Sky comes in, and football is never the same again. There's insane amounts of money. Liverpool just keep making the wrong decisions on and off the pitch, and Man United just keep getting it right. Do you think that's still affected? Basically, everything that we've seen over the last 20 years has come from that crucial moment where basically both clubs changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, United, they were fortunate, I guess, in that they had their era of dominance when all the money, like the crazy money, came into the English game with the Premier League and Sky and all the rest. So that as you know, Liverpool were winning everything around them in the 70s and 80s, but they were never really able to monetize it in the same way that Man United did. And United were kind of mocked for a long time because of, you know, they broke ground in terms of touring Asia, and they set up their own TV channel, and they just started marketing everything. And it's like that now.
Mm-hmm.
But it allowed them to just become this super club and pull miles away. I mean, even now, you look at Old Trafford, I think it might be 70-odd thousand capacity. Like, I mean, it dwarfed Anfield. Anfield has had a major expansion in the last few years, but still like 20,000, at least 20,000 seats bigger.
Yeah.
We're now in the middle of this pandemic where, like, there's no TV money coming in, there's no gate money coming in. So clubs like Man United are going to be able to cushion this because of the fact that they sell everything from jerseys to noodles and everything in between. And you can laugh and you can kind of mock that, but it's going to help them come through this thing a lot better than most other clubs. So they just got it right. They got it right on and off the pitch. It all just came together for them. They had an amazing manager who just built probably three really great teams, three separate great teams, like early 90s, late 90s, and then again sort of 2008. And they just had sustained success, and built the stadium bigger and bigger and bigger in that time. So they just became this like super club. Whereas Liverpool stood still for, I suppose 20 years in terms of like commercially and the stuff they were doing off the pitch. They're starting to get that right now. So you can see now that things are starting to happen. But yeah, totally. United left everybody in their wake, 100%.
Yeah. And Aiders, my kind of childhood heroes were John Barnes. He was the first Liverpool player I ever really like. He was my idol, like, in the early 90s. Who was the first Man United player that you remember just absolutely adoring when you were first getting into football?
I would have to say, if it was just one player only, I would say Giggsy before Roy Keane came along. So I was supporting United before Keane came along. So I'd have to say Giggsy. He was the young lad bursting onto the scene, and everyone wanted to see
Kanchelskis on the other wing.
Yeah, it was pace. It was like, if you look at the way Liverpool are playing now, they have that kind of pace that United had back then, and it's great to watch, attacking football, and everybody's on the edge of their feet watching them running down to the byline, getting crosses in or taking on defenders and getting shots away. And people do like to see players with pace going at defenders, and that's what gets you off your feet,
And I was watching the Chicago Bulls documentary recently, and they just completely dominated the 90s, and a lot of other fans hated them just because they were so good. And before, when I was just a young lad, I didn't know how deep the hatred was. I'd never gone to a Man United Liverpool game. I didn't know all the reasons why there was so much hostility. I just hated them because no one could lay a glove on them. They were winning everything. Did you, like, even as a young lad, did you realise just how good it was? Because, this is kind of before. I'm still even talking like the Paul Ince, that kind of era. Before United really got cracking in Europe, they were just very dominant in England. So back then, did you realise, did you ever take it for granted how good? Because you would have just grown up. You wouldn't have known anything different. You just would have grown up watching Man United winning trophy after trophy. Like, do you feel like you were kind of almost spoiled back then? You take it for granted?
Well, at the start, I had supported United before they first won the league, so it was kind of winning that first title when Steve Bruce scored the goal. That was my memory of, Jesus, we're after doing it. Probably what Liverpool are like now, just getting over the line to get that first one under the belt.
Yeah.
That was the only one I had seen at the start, and kind of then after that, we never took it for granted. Maybe it might look like that from the outside, but there's always clubs that are looking to challenge you, and it was kind of, look, from season to season, other teams are getting better. If you're there at the top, people want to take you down. And I did watch that Chicago Bulls documentary, and you can only see when you're watching the likes of Michael Jordan and the other players being interviewed saying, we wanted to beat them so much. They couldn't beat them, but that was the goal, that they wanted to beat them. So everyone was trying to up their level to beat United, and I don't think we ever took it for granted. Now, I do think back then it was easier to beat teams by bigger margins. So the teams at the bottom didn't have any money at all.
Yeah.
Whereas now they do, and it is kind of stronger over the board. You don't see many big scores in the game. If you're playing, I'm still going to get a good game there. There's good players on big money on the pitch, where maybe in the 90s there was a bigger divide between the very top and the bottom. And you would know you're going to win. Where now it's Liverpool may feel like that at the moment, you probably do, but kind of there is games still now that Liverpool played this year, including Bournemouth, that they were closer than maybe the scoreline ended up suggesting, a chance here or there. But back then it was easier to beat the lower teams by bigger margins,
And Anto, you talked about Liverpool getting it wrong off the pitch, and as the 90s kind of progressed, they slowly sorted themselves on the pitch. Roy Evans brought in a new, young, exciting team, but then the Spice Boys era comes, and back then, we're talking pre-Arsene Wenger, Newcastle had their one season wonder, Blackburn were long gone, Chelsea, this is pre-Abramovich. So Liverpool, it felt like they had the responsibility to be that team that were finally going to actually challenge, because Blackburn was, it was a fluke at the time. Everybody knew that they came and they went. And John Barnes and Robbie Fowler have come out since and say, the Spice Boys thing is unfair because Beckham and Giggs would go out to clubs just as much as we did, but the difference was they were winning. So where do you stand on like the difference between that Spice Boys era? How close were Liverpool actually, or was it actually really not that close when you look back? Because that culminated in that Liverpool team breaking off into a lot of mediocrity and Man United finishing the 90s winning the treble.
I think bar 96, 97, that was a very talented Liverpool team, and that probably should have, at the very least, pushed United to the last day. Probably should have won the league that year. But no, I believe that Man United, Gary Neville has said this a few occasions, that I think United won it, at least one league and maybe two, because of their fitness levels were superior. Like you saw it with Liverpool, you used to see it in games. Like they were 1-0 up against Coventry towards the end of one season, where they actually could have gone top with about 6 games to go or something.
Yeah.
And they conceded 2 goals in the last few minutes. So this thing of like, everybody was drinking, I have no time for that at all. That doesn't wash. Like if Man United were drinking, and the players were having the odd night out, if they were, then given that they were the team at the very top, surely Liverpool should have been telling themselves, well, we got to gain an edge. In every way we can, we have to gain an edge. So if they're drinking, we won't drink at all. Now, it's not an excuse to say, well, they were doing it as well. Now, I just believe that Ferguson had his team better conditioned. They were physically tougher and stronger. So that when you saw United all the time, when they got past Christmas, January, February, they just went into a different gear. They were able to do that. Like, how can they do that? Because of the way they're training day in, day out, the way he had them prepared. So there's definitely that. I mean, look, going back to the whole thing of Liverpool sort of standing still in that era, Aiders will know this, like Aiders runs his own gym, I'm sure does his own marketing and that type of stuff. Like in 2005, Liverpool won the Champions League. They were the biggest sporting story in the world, and there was people trying to buy Liverpool merchandise in other countries, like in Australia and America. When they went to buy it on the club shop, Liverpool were running out of merch because they were only working 9 to 5. So like they would run out of teddy bears or key rings. And that is how rooted they were to the past. There was no forward thinking about it. I mean, you even think of that yourself, Aiders, in terms of like someone trying to sell themselves as a business. Like how crazy that is to think of this global club. If you want to think of the club as a kind of now in marketing terms as a product, it's just such a rookie mistake. So that's how far Liverpool were behind. Now up until really the American owners that came in 2010-11 have started to make forward strides in that sense. So we just allowed not just Man United, other clubs, Arsenal and Chelsea later on, took Liverpool over in a lot of different ways. But it does annoy me that hearing players from that era saying, peddling that one. Well, United were doing it as well. You know what? United,
it's a bit of an excuse, isn't it? It
is an excuse, Aiders, because you know what? United players used to say the very same about Liverpool in the 80s. They used to use the very same excuse. At the end of the day, second is nothing at these clubs. Like you gotta sometimes just look at yourself, because Liverpool did have the ability to win things in that time. Yeah. But in the end, they were just too soft and they were too flaky, and they just didn't want it enough.
It's when you see, like with Antos saying The Last Dance, the Chicago Bulls documentary, and it's when you watch that, you're like, when you see winners that they just wanted to win so much. And I think United had 3 or 4 of them in the team who dragged the rest along with them, And
but you know what the thing is, though, Liverpool are now. I mean, you have to give credit where credit's due. Like, we've got the 2 European Cup finals in a row. We won one of them. We finished with 97 points, which 100 times out, 99 times out of 100, you win the league with that. And now we look like we're going to win it. So this is an extraordinary period. I've never seen it like as a Liverpool supporter. And the thing is, the things that other fans are thrown at us saying, VAR it's all about VAR for Liverpool. The referees want Liverpool to win the league and it's a conspiracy. That's what we spent about 10 years saying. Every time you can't get a penalty at Old Trafford, it's Fergie time. They add on an extra 6 minutes, and it's you basically realise I mean, I look back at that team. I have a lot of, when I was younger, I just hated Man United because they were so good, and I wouldn't give them any credit. But now, when you look back, Ferguson built that team on a core of kids who supported the team. So you had the Neville brothers, Butt, Giggs, Beckham, all these, and then you had this really smart recruitment where Liverpool turned down the chance to sign Eric Cantona and Peter Schmeichel, and Man United say, we'll have some of that. And that's there, right there. That's your spine for the next 10 years. So I know Aders would love to talk about how Liverpool basically got it wrong in the 90s. But now let's move on to a happier time, because this is a Liverpool podcast. Gerard Houllier comes in. The Spice Boys shit is gone. It's long gone. There's a steal to Liverpool now. And Gerard Houllier comes in and has an amazing record against Manchester United. I mean, beat them home and away 2 years in a row in the league. Beat them in between that. Beat them in the Charity Shield final. Beat them in the League Cup final as well. I think Roy Keane mentioned in his autobiography at this stage Liverpool had their number. What did you think of that Liverpool team as a United fan, Aders? You had Sammy Hupia at the back. You had a young Steven Gerrard, but Danny Murphy, who was always scoring against Manchester United. You had a young, informed Michael Owen, Heskey up front. We weren't the best looking, in terms of the football we played. It wasn't the most attractive flowing football. But when we were beating you home and away, were you thinking this is finally going to be the time now where they go the extra step?
That's what it was, and it was kind of Liverpool were getting to that stage. It's like Anto said, where they did throw the league away when it was in their hands and they kind of messed up. But as a United fan, the Liverpool games are the ones that we want to win. City, we do want to beat City. Obviously, they're the local rivals. But if you ask anybody, any United fan, what game do you want to win every year? It's the Liverpool game. And when you're seeing Liverpool getting better and better, and they're trying to knock us off the perch, you're like, right, lads, these are getting good here. They're putting the foot on the gas with their signings. They've got a good management team behind them, and we do need to do something if we're going to kind of stay ahead of them, And that came down to maybe Liverpool. Anto, let me jump in.
No, sorry, Aders, go ahead.
Sorry, Anto. So it was kind of, as a United fan, we knew the challengers were going to be Liverpool. Then along came Arsenal, and there was 3 or 4 clubs then who were putting it up to you. But Liverpool was always the one that we feared the most, probably because we didn't want to see Liverpool winning the league. And when Blackburn won it, it was kind of anyone again but Liverpool. We didn't mind if we weren't going to win it once it wasn't Liverpool that were getting their hands on it. But unfortunately this year it does look like Liverpool are they're rightfully going to get it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, right? Because we grew up on the same town, so like Liverpool play Man United, and it's a massive deal. Like it's actually there's an argument to say that Liverpool against Man United is one of the biggest sporting fixtures in the Irish calendar. Like there is that. Now that doesn't sit well with a lot of people, but you could say that just in terms of the interest, because both clubs are so well supported. Like you played with Glenavon as well in the Irish League, so you would have seen like the type of support that a club like that has. Do you think, do you understand when you get League of Ireland fans or Irish League fans who are very resentful about Irish people who support English clubs like Liverpool and Man United?
I think you'd see that the people are like, why aren't you going to watch them games? But when you look at it, people do want to watch the best players, and that's why the Premier League is far more supported than Championship and so down, and the numbers get less down the levels. So I can understand people saying you should be watching games here rather than going over to Old Trafford. Like there's the same people. I'd only go over to United once or twice a year, but there's people that are going every single week, and you can understand it. It's kind of, that's what they've grown up with all their life, and they want to watch brilliant football, and maybe they haven't seen that over the last few years. But the rivalry in every town in Ireland is Man United and Liverpool, bar a small percentage of people. Like I guarantee if you go into any school in Ireland, any primary school, most of the kids will either support United or Liverpool. Man City may have gained numbers by being successful for a couple of years, but I still don't think City have many supporters in Ireland. It would be, maybe they've grown a little bit, but not massively. But United and Liverpool, that rivalry, I don't think that's ever going to go away. It's always going to be there.
And listen, Aders, sorry, Anto. I just want to ask a question that's kind of off the subject, just for a second. I basically, Aders, don't be afraid to course if you want here. I just basically, in a nutshell, I want you to tell us why, because when Anto has told me that the atmosphere at Old Trafford is pretty intense. Like, even when Liverpool aren't playing, they're singing anti-Liverpool fans, and I can't remember, it was Anto that told me, or some Liverpool fan went there and was struck by the anti-Liverpool scarves, anti-Liverpool songs. I want you to tell me in your words, and don't be afraid to say what you want. Why do you hate Liverpool? I'm not talking about the whole fan base, just you yourself. What is it about Liverpool that really gets you?
I think it's just, as a United fan, that it's bred into you, and it stems from is Liverpool's success, a lot of the success that Liverpool had. And again, it's probably why everyone hates United over our lifetime, because they had so much success in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And as a United fan, seeing Liverpool being so successful for people in the 70s and 80s was probably something that just was totally something that just drove them mad, and it's kind of bred from there, and they're two big cities as well, like two big cities in England that their people don't like people from other cities, and kind of comes down to that. You can cut that bit out, lads.
Do you know what's funny, Aders, as well, right? Well, I always kind of makes me laugh, because we're all from the same town, right? We're all from Balbriggan, so we were brought up together, similar backgrounds and all that. Some people support Man United, some people support Liverpool, but what gets me is that when you get a lad from Balbriggan talking about one of his mates from Balbriggan, and he says something like, "Oh, well, he's a typical Liverpool fan," and I'm thinking, like, well, how? Like, what's the difference? Like, one picked one team, one picked the other. Like, well, what are they getting at there? Like, do you think there's certain traits that people who support Liverpool just tend to have, or what do you think?
I think it just comes down to, when United are, no matter who United are playing, no Liverpool fan wants to see them win, and the same when Liverpool are playing, no United fan wants to see them win, and it's just something that's it's in us, I don't think we're ever going to take it out of us that the two clubs just don't like each other, and you can see that from the games. That's when to be honest with you, the United fans could be a lot more passionate than they are, but when they are playing Liverpool, that's when you see them passion come out of them a little bit more.
Aders, in 2005, Arsenal played Manchester United in the FA Cup final, and it was Vieira's last ever game for Arsenal. And I remember watching it in Balbriggan, and it was back then, the pubs were still packed on match day. And obviously, mainly it was Man United fans. There was a good few Arsenal fans, and it was a very small amount of Liverpool fans. And I was rubbing it in United fans' face, and I was just loving it, because it meant Man United were going to finish with no trophies. They finished third that season, and then 3 days later, we were playing the Champions League final. And I remember the Man United fans, I'm not going to name any names, but they were just like, I hope they destroy us on Wednesday. And then fast forward to Wednesday at half-time, Liverpool are 3-0 down, and I just imagine every Man United fan in Balbriggan has got their feet up going, you know what, it was worth it to lose that cup final, to watch this humiliation. So do you remember watching that Istanbul final? Do you remember at halftime what you were thinking? Were you absolutely enjoying it? Did you feel a little bit sorry for them? Tell me about your experience of that game.
We were absolutely loving it. I was like the rest of them. I was jumping on the bandwagon, and it was like everyone was an ABU through the 90s. And I think United fans are ABLs whenever they're playing, so it was kind of like, my dad's looking at me, because I said to you, he's just a sports fan, and he doesn't really follow a particular team. And he's just saying, why have you got so much hatred? Because I'd be on the phone ringing my uncles whenever the Liverpool are losing. I text them, what's the score? How are you getting on today? So I think, especially in Balbriggan, like, you've got like a few pubs in Balbriggan. If you go to one pub, that's where the Liverpool fans will go. If you go to another pub, that's where the United fans will go. And I think it's supporters clubs that used to be in the town. Are the supporters clubs still going, lads, or what?
You're just about, but you know what? It's not quite the same, Aders. I was actually going to bring it up, because I mean, we'll all remember going to games.
Brilliant, yeah. Like my first ever game in a pub was the 1993 Liverpool against United, and United went 3-0 up after 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And I would have been maybe 8 years old, but we were listening to it on the radio. We didn't have Sky Sports. So we're listening to it on the radio, and my dad said, we have to get up to the pub quick. So up to the pub, and there's me, middle of the week, and an 8-year-old boy in with his father, and you're allowed in, and one half of the pub is a United set of supporters, and the other half is Liverpool, and just that passion, like that was brilliant, you know. And then we talk about it the next day in school.
But the thing is, though, like back then, not many people had Sky, like especially in the early 90s, like not many. Like there's only I only knew a couple of people, so I think something has been lost there because you had no choice but to go to the pub, and there was a really, for Liverpool, Man United, there was a really great atmosphere in the pubs back then. And I know now, if you went into town, you get, you know, you're always going to get lads that are out and stuff like that, but if you went to any pub on a Man United Liverpool game, it was going to be packed, and you were going to have divisions in the pub. It's a little bit sad, isn't it?
I do think that's what's missing, because you can't recreate that passion at home in your house when you're doing other stuff at home as well, and there's nobody in your house that's following the match. It's not the same as being in the pub where everybody's glued to the big screen, and there's big roars every time there's a free kick or a decision given that you don't like. And I think that's kind of, that bit of passion isn't there, you know. And maybe it does come down to everybody having Sky, and we all have everything we need at the tip of our fingers, you know. And we take our phone out and you can look at
it. There's like nobody can watch anything without being on their phone constantly.
I know, it's like the middle of the game, we all put the Liverpool are losing, lads, what's the score, and whatever, and then we'll be on our phone for half of the match as well. So I think the passion of watching the game in the pub, if you can't be in the stadium, was the next best thing, you know. And it's just not the same sitting at home in your house and watching it from there.
Right, Anton, this is for you. I think that both of you are going to disagree with me in this, but I this is what I think about this. So we fast forward to 2008. 2009 technically, and Liverpool and Man United are going at it for the title, and Liverpool look like they have a really good team this year, and Man United unfortunately have an even better team. This is, you know, Vidic, Ferdinand, Tevez, Berbatov, Rooney, Ronaldo, and Rafa, his infamous rant that he comes out and he says Ferguson is the only manager in the league that can criticise the referees. He can get the games changed to suit him. I personally think, I still think to this day, he shouldn't have said it, because he set himself up then to be either, there was no going to be in between. If Liverpool win the league, he's a genius. If they didn't win it, no matter what the circumstances, he was going to be beaten with it. So, Anto, first of all for you, and then I want to hear what the United reaction to Rafa's rant was. But, Anto, what do you think of that? Do you think that that didn't affect it? Because people say, after that Liverpool fell apart. Do you think that really did affect them, or things would have played out the same no matter what?
Definitely didn't help them. Like, I've heard some of the players talking about it, and some of them have actually said that it did affect them. I think Gerrard said that, you know, he sort of winced it when it happened, because why would you just bring the extra attention on yourself? Like, Liverpool hadn't won the league at that point in, what was it, like nearly 20 years at that stage. Like, they were the ones that had to break that duck. Man United had won it and been there and done it. So it kind of felt like it was a bit self-indulgent by Benitez there. He got himself.
Just going to stick me charger in here, boys.
He wanted to have a little pop of Ferguson, and maybe he bought into that whole thing about mind games a little bit too much, and decided that he was going to, you know, try and get one over on Ferguson. But you know, other players have said that it didn't affect them really at all. You know, at the end of the day, the reason Liverpool didn't win the league is because they didn't have enough firepower. I mean, that was obvious. If you look at Man United's attack at the time compared to Liverpool's, I think Liverpool, beyond Torres and Gerrard, they just didn't quite have enough. So my sort of
but can I just jump in there, Anto? Because at the time, all Liverpool fans were saying "here, here," and you know, the beauty of hindsight. Now people are saying, "Oh, well, it was a bit embarrassing." Do you remember what your reaction was when you first saw it as a Liverpool fan?
Yeah, I do. I just remember thinking, why has he done it? Like, what's like? I mean, there is like a thing of like, yeah, at least someone stand up to Ferguson and all that. But like, I just didn't really see the merits of it. Now, I don't think it's not why Liverpool didn't win the league. That is not why Liverpool didn't win the league. At the end of the day, you know, they didn't win it because United were better. So like, I wouldn't be getting too hung up on it. But at the time, I just thought, what does he really need to be picking a fight with Ferguson of all people, because he had so much experience and he was such a canny manager. And so that was I remember just thinking he didn't really need to do that.
Yeah. And Aders, your reaction when you see him, because you know I think it was 13 years earlier you had the Kevin Keegan one. Were you laughing at him, or were you a little bit worried about that? You know, Liverpool were going to pick up a head of steam, and what did you think when you heard Rafa's rant?
I did think it was Liverpool's year. Like, you're thinking, Jesus, they can't lose it from here. But Fergie, the master of mind games himself, I'm sure that gave him extra fire then to go in and do what he does in terms of the way he dealt with other managers. And it kind of, when you look back now, it did help us. He should have took the pressure off his own. Like, I think that's what Klopp is brilliant at. Klopp could need 1 point from 10 games and you still won't hear him celebrate success or come out with any kind of wild statements. You know, he just gets on with it. And I think that's why he's done so well with Liverpool. You know, it's kind of like he just gets on with it. There's no, like, even through the coronavirus, you'd imagine he'd going to come out and say, oh, we should be back playing straight away. Where no, he's cool, he's calm, he's collected. And I think he's the way I would look at a manager that they should deal with. He's kind of like a Fergie in terms of when he's there, it looks like he's in full control. And I think that did, back in 2000, 2008 and 2009, after having it definitely didn't help them, you know. It piled the pressure on the lads more than actually taking it off them, you know.
So, Aders, what do you think of this current where are we at the moment? Because Solskjaer comes in, wins 12 in a row. He's the savior. He pulls off the PSG miracle, and then from then on, it kind of falls apart, and he looks like he might get sacked. And then they hit rock bottom again there last January when Burnley beat them at Old Trafford. But now Bruno Fernandes, McTominay looks like a really good player. De Gea is slowly getting back. And now, I mean, you know, Liverpool are Liverpool. Like, you cannot deny we're 25 points clear. So where are we now in terms of, because I think it was someone said recently that, it might have been Michael Owen that said it'll take Man United at least 2 or 3 years to get close to Liverpool. Where do you see, you know, Solskjaer's United, Klopp's Liverpool?
I see the bad signings we've made, and when Solskjaer came in first and he won all them games, you're thinking, yeah, this is definitely the man that's going to bring us forward. Fast forward then a few months and kind of it's not where we wanted to be. Players aren't playing as well as they should be. He's picking players week in, week out that we think shouldn't be in the team, you know. And like recently, the last few months there before the break, things have improved a lot, and I think it comes down to Bruno Fernandes coming in. It's amazing what one player can do to improve a side, but I do think we're missing at least 5 players that, and we're not going to get or City as well. You know, I think City are having a really bad year. I don't think they're as bad as the results are suggesting. But for United, I think we do need major signings if we're going to be. And you can look at the money they've spent. They just didn't spend the money well, and I don't know. Like, some people will blame Ed Woodward, other people will blame the managers that were there. And again, we have got a manager who's not a proven manager in, and like Roy, I would kind of agree with Roy Keane in one sense. Give him the time he needs, but when results aren't good and people that you're looking and saying, well, look, he isn't a proven manager. He doesn't know how to get you out of a hole like this. He's never been in a position like this before. So I'm on the fence. When we're doing well, obviously we kind of like want to keep it the way it is. But when we're not doing so well, that's when we are getting frustrated, and you're blaming Ed Woodward and you're blaming the Glazers and you're blaming the manager. And I think it is frustration from all of us United fans that we don't know who to blame when things aren't going well, you know, because you're looking, we've spent serious money, and whatever you say about Woodward and the Glazers, especially the Glazers, they've been taking money out of the club, and it is a problem. But when you look at it, we have spent big money, but we just haven't got the performances from the players who we spent the money on.
And Anto, when Ferguson left, I just thought that this is they're never going to be the same again. Maybe someone will come in and maybe they will still win a league title. But in terms of, he proved that if he has no money, he wins trophies. If you give him money, he's going to win trophies. You bring in, the best of the best, and young Mourinho, he still wins trophies. So how did you feel, Anto, because I knew Moyes wasn't going to work long term, and I had a feeling Van Gaal wasn't going to work. I remember feeling really worried when Mourinho came to Manchester United. I thought he's going to win something, and he did. He didn't win what they wanted him to win. What did you think? Did you think this could be the second coming? Because they've got a manager now who spends a lot of money, can bring in big names, and he hates Liverpool.
Mourinho, yeah. No, I knew he'd win something. And as you said, he did. He won 2 trophies. League Cup, Europa League. They came second, didn't they? And was it his first or his second season?
Yeah.
And FA Cup final.
And FA Cup final. Like, this is what he does, And I think, time will probably be a little bit kinder to him. The thing about Mourinho is that you're only going to get 3 to 4 years max. So, like, the fact that he didn't get them to win the league within the first 2 years, it just got more unlikely as time went on, because that's what he does. It just does that throughout his whole career. And he's not going to be at Spurs in, I would say, even 2 years' time. Mm-hmm. That's just the way he's been throughout his entire career. So you always get that quick fix. I did think, though, that he was going to come in and just give them the job, because at the time when he came in, I don't think they were as far off being the best team as they are maybe now. What's happened since is that City have got better and Liverpool have got a lot better. But no, it was like I thought when Mourinho came in that he was going to bring silver, which he did, but just not the very top ones.
Yeah, and Aders, how do you feel about the Mourinho era? Because you had a man who wins trophies, and he had a natural hate for Liverpool. He clearly doesn't like the club, no matter what he says now and then. He doesn't want to see Liverpool win trophies. So how did you feel? Do you feel he actually got a bit of a hard deal, like getting sacked after finishing second?
I think when you look at it, everybody wants United to have the success that we did have. And from being over at a few games when Mourinho was manager, the fans just don't like the way he plays football. And I think it's all right if you're winning and you're if you're winning regularly, but when you're not winning and you're only fighting to get into the top 4 and you're not playing attractive football, that's when the fans will go against you. And that's what happened. Like the game at Anfield when Liverpool, what was the final score in that match? Liverpool beat United, was it 3-0? What was it?
3-1. Shaqiri got 2 goals.
3-1, but it could have been more. And that for me was when I seen how big of a gap it was, because we didn't realise the gap was that big, but in terms of speed, fitness, and Mourinho came out at the end of the match and said that's what we have to live up to and look at their fitness levels. And when you say something like that, that's like the fans don't want to hear that, when he's coming out saying we should be that fit when he's in charge of what they're doing in training, and being that far off in fitness, whether people have better players than you, but if you're that far off them in terms of getting to the ball first, and the bit of hunger that Liverpool did have, and that match really highlighted it for me, how far we were behind.
Yeah.
Look, it's Man United. You're expected to win because that's what we've known for the last 20 years is to win and challenge all the time. So just winning a smaller cup wasn't going to be enough for the fans to say.
So this is our final segment, and this is where it could get tasty. Aders, I'm going to start with you first.
Yep.
Who would you rather have in your team? And now remember, all of these players, imagine them at their peak. Edwin van der Sar or Alisson?
I'd have to go with Alisson based on this year because I have him in my fantasy football team, and he's just he's a banker for 6 points every week.
But Van der Sar, I mean...
Van der Sar was class, I think Alisson is super on the ball, though, to be honest with you. I think his distribution, people might not see that, but I'm looking at it and I can see he's starting a lot of play. The players trust him to give him the ball. Van der Sar was good on the ball, but I think if you looked at Van der Sar kicking the ball, a lot of his were pinged out to the wingers, whereas if you look at Alisson, he's very composed on the ball. He's only been caught once or twice on it, but he is excellent on the ball, and it's like having a sweeper more or less on your team. And
I was going to go for Schmeichel, but I just thought he's never.
I would have picked Schmeichel.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's why I didn't. All right, Anto, Andy Robertson or Patrice Evra. Now remember, both of them in their prime. You can argue what Robertson is prime right now.
You know what? That's hard because the thing about Robertson, it's the same with Alexander-Arnold. Like they're weaponized in Liverpool. Like Liverpool, they just suit the way Liverpool is set up. So like they're very. Klopp wanted his fullbacks to play in a very particular way. So the fact that he has the energy to get up and down and he's got that ability in his locker just makes him perfect for the Liverpool team. But I would say Robertson. I thought Everett was a good player. He's a very consistent defender, but I think Robertson just gives you another dimension. So, Andy Robertson.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Oh no! And did you see the way Liverpool? I was reading some yoke about the way they actually scouted him. Like Hull were losing 3 or 4 every week. So if you're looking statistics-wise, he was on a team that he was a defender in a team that were shipping serious amount of goals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a like Liverpool had some weird formula. The lads who were scouting him that. They seen how many times he got into the other half, and there was more than you'd look at just saying he's a good player or not. Like there was a specific formula that they were looking for from fullbacks, and it was amazing to think, Jesus, someone is looking at it that scientifically to make a signing. And if you look at it now, he's probably the best money they've spent for. What did they spend for him? 7 million, was it?
Pretty much, but I think we spent 8 million. But the thing is, if you think about the top 3 left backs in the Premiership area, Ashley Cole is probably number 1 if we're being honest. I would probably put Everett in there. And has Robertson been around long enough for us to say he's in the top 3 best left backs the Premiership has seen, or am I jumping the gun there?
You mightn't say that now, but it's looking like he could build into that because I just don't see him making many errors. And I think that's like, especially in a fullback, if they're not giving the ball away a lot and they're comfortable on the ball and they're taking free kicks and set pieces, I would look for that more so than someone who's like making last gasp tackles and stuff, And I do think he's the type of player that's fit and he can get up and down the line, and he's the modern day fullback that you're looking for. So
okay, so far we have Alisson over Van der Sar and we have Robertson over Everett. So this is shaping up very nicely.
We'll see who the rest are.
All right. Well, this is where it's going to get this is where it's going to get tasty, and this is for the both of you. So feel free, whoever wants to go with this first. Rio Ferdinand, who I couldn't stand him. I think he's so arrogant, but he was just a great defender. Rio Ferdinand or Virgil van Dijk.
Well, that's.
Is this for me? Is it?
Well,
right. If you're looking at it on this season and you're looking at the amount of points that Liverpool have gained, you'd be like Virgil van Dijk. But if you're looking at it at the success that Ferdinand had over a longer period, I knew
you were going to throw it at my face sooner or later.
No, I like Rio, and I do think they're similar players. Van Dijk is possibly a bit of a better defender. The two of them are excellent on the ball and very composed and looking for the ball off the keeper.
I need a player though. We can't. I'm
going for Ferdinand because I think Ferdinand would be worth 70. If Harry Maguire is 80 million or whatever he was, I think Ferdinand would be 150 million.
All right, Anto.
It's like what Ado says there. Like it's very hard. Really, you want to be. If you could compare them over 5-year blocks, so Van Dijk right now has just been unbelievable for the last 2 years. But you don't know. I think it's very unlikely that he's going to go off a cliff. He's just an amazing player, but he's not going to be the same athlete in a few years. So how can he adjust to that and all that type of stuff?
And I think that's what was good about Rio. As he got older, he could still compete at the very top. So maybe Van Dijk can. He looks like he has the type of body and the mind for the game that he will be able to adjust as he loses a little bit of pace. I think Rio's proven that he could do it,
All right, so it's...
Well, what I will say, though, as well, in fairness, Van Dijk, Ferdinand came into a very, very good United team that was well-versed. I don't think I've seen a player, definitely not a defender, who has changed a team as dramatically as Van Dijk when he came to Liverpool.
Well, I think for me, it's Liverpool. It's at the back that they've really we would have always looked at Liverpool through the years of they'll always make one mistake in a match. As a fan, and I'm sure the players were the same, you'll always get a chance. Whoever was at the back, whether it was Dominic Matteo, Carragher, you then move on the years and you've got different players at the back like Skirtle. You know that you're going to get chances. Now it's very, very hard to get a chance. You look at the back 4 or 5, you're counting the keeper. it's much harder to get chances. So I think that's for me, the Liverpool players that we've chosen so far, kind of, they're in the modern era where Liverpool have been exceptional at the back.
All right, okay. Well, this one, I mean, I love him to bits, but I can't. I think this is going to be 3 for 3 here. We'll start off with you first, Anto. Steve McManaman or Ryan Giggs?
Oh, well, it has to be Giggs. It has to be Giggs. Like, I think McManaman was a very underrated Liverpool player. There was a lot on his shoulders. Like, there was a huge amount of pressure on his shoulders for a couple of years. He was the main Liverpool playmaker. And at his best, he was unbelievable. But he could frustrate you as well. I think like he was criticised for a lack of end product for a player who was so good, so talented, and so much running in him and creativity in him. There was often happened just way too much. His finishing wasn't great, and sometimes like his crossing wasn't great. Giggs is he's just one of the best.
But Anto, like look what happened. Look what happened when McManaman went to play with better players. He won 2 European Cups in 3 years. He scored in one of the finals. He scored in the other semi-final. He won, I think, he definitely won 1 La Liga, if not 2.
Yeah.
He didn't look out of place for a long time in that team.
No, well, he wasn't. But Giggs, that was for 2 years. Like, he did it for 2 years. Now, I know he was at Liverpool for a long time, but like Giggs did it. Giggs was at that level for nearly 20 years. Yeah. Like, it's actually freakish.
Well, listen, I'd love to see Aders piss all over one of my childhood heroes, but we'll just move it on now to the one that has basically divided fans for 20 years. Steven Gerrard, Roy Keane, Aders.
Roy Keane, he's my hero. I'll never pick anyone in my team ahead of him.
All right, but you got to back it up.
I think if you're picking a team, like I do think Gerrard was exceptional, brilliant on the ball, and he had a much better range of passing than Keane. But in terms of the success that Keane had, and I think being a captain and a leader, how he dragged other people across the goal line with him, it has to be Keane for me.
Well, Aders, can I just ask you this though? Because Keane had the presence, he'd give a player a look and he'd scare the life, and you just got the feeling he could whip it everyone into shape. But in terms of ability, what he could do with a ball, so like, do you think? Could you honestly say Keane was still like in terms of shooting and crossing?
I think people say he was limited in what he could do, but I think he played with his limitations and got 100% out of himself every single game. Where he kept the ball, he didn't. If you look at his pass completion, it might not have been goal opportunities. He wasn't setting up a lot of attack and play and stuff, but he kept the ball, kept it simple, and enabled us to do what we do. Like, it enables United to pick attacking players and focus on the upper half of the field. When we knew we were safe at the back, we forward the back, and then you threw Keno in there as well, that he was able to do. And he did chip in with important goals as well. But I just think for his overall worth to the team, people might look at it and say, well, he wouldn't be able to play a 50-yard diagonal like Gerrard, or he wouldn't score a free kick or do this. But if you look at the traits that he did have, and in terms of from Ireland's perspective as well, we punched above our weight, and Keno dragged us through in a lot of games as well. Just from how he could bring other players along with him. All
right, so Aders goes for Keane and I go for Gerrard. Anto, I want to hear your thoughts on Gerrard versus Keane, and also Gerrard versus Scholes.
If you're asking me Gerrard or Scholes, it will be Gerrard. Gerrard, as good a player as Scholes was.
He's asking you Gerrard or Keane.
I'm asking for both.
I'm trying to delay it because I'm probably going to say Keane. I just think, well, again, look, I mean, I think like talking about like him being limited, or like I think he was I don't think he was at all. Like, he was an absolutely brilliant passer of the ball. He's actually underrated how good he could pass the ball. Like he literally controlled games. So Gerrard used to take games with a scruff of the neck and cover every blade of grass. Roy Keane could control a game within a 15-yard radius, just taking the ball off his centre half, just punching passes through the thirds for 90 minutes.
Someone said that when he was at Sunderland, that when he took over, like, he was retired a few years, but he was still the best player in training, joining in. The lads couldn't lay a glove on him, as they say, and he just had that kind of game awareness about him. Like, I was talking to someone who played against him in a pre-season friendly, and they just said they couldn't get near him. He stayed in the centre circle for a lot of the game, and just control the game from his knowledge, you know. And
don't get me wrong. Keane is by far the greatest player that this country's ever produced, and maybe ever will in my lifetime. And I've seen the footage of him in his last few months when he played for Celtic, and he's basically walking around Old Firms, dominating. Don't get me wrong. The man was an absolute powerhouse, but Gerrard played a whole season on the wing, and he got PFA Player of the Year. He played extra time at right back in a European Cup final. He played as a number 10 when Fernando Torres was at the club. He played at central midfield when he first came in. He basically played as a forward as well. When Torres was injured, he was our main goal getter. And then his last couple of years, he played as a number 6, basically as a quarterback. So Keane is a wonderful player, but in terms of Gerrard, I think he actually retired a little bit early. I don't think he wanted to go play for a Celtic. I know he played 1 year in the Galaxy.
He didn't want to drop down the levels.
Yeah,
but understandable, you know.
If you look at how he kept himself, though.
Yeah, if you put Gerrard into the Liverpool side now, at his prime, he would walk into the side and he would have more success than he had back then, you know, because he'd be in a better side. So I think as well, Keane was brilliant for me, and a lot of it did come down to being in a really good side. Maybe we wouldn't have been talking about him as he was if he was in a lesser United side, but for the success, I'm going with Keane anyway.
Any last thoughts, Santo?
Yeah, actually, they're kind of similar, really. I know you're pointing out how versatile Gerrard was, but Keane was as well. Like when he started, he was a very different player when he first came from Nottingham Forest to Man United. He was box to box. And I'm pretty sure that United did use him in centre half and in wider positions through the years. And by the time he finished, he was just sitting in front of the back four. So I actually think they were similar. Look, great players, top quality players are all the same.
I think it's kind of gone out of the game now a lot, where there's not many players that you see move from position to position, and possibly it comes down to squads being so big and if a defender's missing, they'll put a defender in. But back even 15 years ago, was you play your best team, and if it means putting a lad into a different position, like Gerrard played on the wing, you play your best 11 available players. Whereas now, if your right winger is injured, you've got a right winger who's on the bench, or he's out on loan that you can call him back. So I think
that's a good point. There's more subs as well, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Okay, next one. I don't think Aders is going to go for him here because he left Man United on really bad terms. But let's have a look. In their prime, Carlos Tevez or Bobby Firmino?
I would go with Firmino because I just think Tevez was a super player, but I think Bobby Firmino has been very consistent, and if he's not adding goals, he's always he's another player on my fantasy football team. He's always there in and around the box, so you know that he's going to be there. Whether he scores every week is a different story, but I don't think it's just goals that Liverpool get out of him. You know, he's very creative. He opens up space. He's a very clever player. You know, he allows Salah and Mane to get into the box from his movement, just simple movement that maybe people might not see that, and they just think that he's not in the box, but he's opening space for other players to run into, and I think that's a big thing about Firmino. So probably helped that Tevez did leave early and he fucked off. But I'm going for Firmino for this.
Any arguments, Santo?
No, totally agree. I think he's probably the most intelligent player I've seen in supporting Liverpool the last 30 years or whatever. He is a very, very smart player, and the best gauge of it is when he's not in the Liverpool team. It's not the same team. Mane doesn't look the same. Salah doesn't look the same. He's very unselfish. So if you drill it down to just numbers in terms of goals scored, Tevez was probably a better goal scorer. But Firmino is arguably the key man in that attack because he makes all the others better. He brings them all into play. Just the way he uses the space and causes he plays in between the lines so cleverly that it's very difficult to handle him because the secret's out with Firmino now. Everybody knows that he's the one that's joining the dots. So you can see teams trying to get him out of the game, but he's so good that still very, very hard for them to do it.
That's a skill in itself, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like keeping yourself in the game when the teams are trying to mark you out of it.
That's what Rooney was so good at as well, that Rooney would create that space, and maybe Rooney did score more goals and more spectacular goals, but in terms of movement, they're fairly similar types of movement in that they're clever, they create opportunities for everyone else.
All right, well, the last one here, you're going to say, it was a different era, they were a different player. Enough of that bollocks. I just want an answer. In their peak, Anto first, Robbie Fowler or Robin van Persie?
About at their peak? Oh,
of course.
Wow.
Anto, your involvement in this podcast depends on this answer. So,
I have to say Fowler because he was just the most.
Because I'm going to kick you off the podcast if you don't.
The most natural, the best natural finisher I've ever seen. And the problem was that he was at his peak. He was kind of like Michael Owen. He was at his peak when he was about 19. He had a bad injury and he wasn't the most disciplined trainer in terms of looking after himself. So that, he lost a fraction of pace after a bad injury and he was never quite the same. But what a finisher. The brain on him, 2-footed, total street footballer as well. Like, I think
not tall, but scored a lot of headers.
Yeah, he was only about 5'7", I think, or 5'8" max. So, like, just an amazing, natural, real street footballer. And Percy was a very, very Dutch. You could tell he had the Dutch education. He was technically brilliant, and he was athletic and tall. But I will say, peak Robbie Fowler, for me.
Good man. All right, last one is for you, Aiders. I'm going to pick one Man United legend, and I'm going to pick another Liverpool legend. It's Wayne Rooney in his peak against Nigel Clough in his peak.
Funny story. I actually played against Nigel Clough, and he was 40 at the time. He was player manager of Burton Albion. He's still there actually now.
In a proper game, in a pre-season.
No, it was a league match. I was on loan with Scarborough. Jesus. And it was a league match. Burton Albion were just after moving into a new stadium. I think it was 2005.
Right.
And I was playing against him in the middle. Now, I was only there for a month. Scarborough were going through a bad time. I shouldn't have took the move, but the week after I moved to them, they ended up going into administration and the players weren't getting their wages and nobody was happy there, So
your ridiculous wage demands didn't help as well, Aiders, did
they? And it was a time for them when nobody was happy, so they weren't even focused on the football. They were more focused on getting their wages to pay their bills and whatever. So we went to play Burton Albion away, and Nigel Clough was absolutely brilliant. 40 years old. Like I said to you about the lads talking about Keano controlling the game from the middle of the field, that's all he did. He stood in the middle, and I was thinking, I'm 20-year-old, I have to cover every blade of grass, but he totally dominated me just from staying in the middle of the pitch.
He seemed like a bit of a fairy of a player, though. Did you go in any 50-50s?
I couldn't get near him. He's 40, but
it's a 70s hurry.
Just the way, it's amazing when somebody has that brain, and you can even see it. You lads will probably see it from watching lower level football. When you see somebody, and they might not be the fittest lad in the world, but when they have that brain, they can do so much with that brain, that they can just stand there, create space for themselves, and not chasing after the ball all the time. And at the time, I was going running around after the ball all the time when he was standing still and just getting the ball off his teammates and creating opportunities. And that to me was, Jesus, he was brilliant. But when you're asking me the question of who was the player again?
Nigel Clough versus Wayne Rooney.
It can only be Rooney. Rooney, brilliant signing, and Fergie was absolutely on the ball there with getting Rooney in at his age. Rooney could have kind of gone to anyone in the world, and it was probably hard to imagine a player moving from Merseyside to go to Old Trafford and stay there for so long and be so successful. But Rooney, for the United fans, when he left, we were all sad, and he kind of was coming to the end of his better days. Maybe he shouldn't have been, but you have to bear in mind, he started when he was 15 in the Premiership, and his game wasn't really based around being the fittest person in the world, so it was inevitable that he wasn't going to get to 35 and still be playing at the very top, that his days at the top were going to be cut shorter earlier. But United, we've seen brilliant days from Rooney, and it kind of, it's what Fergie was all about. He got the key players. And the question you asked Anto about Van Persie, like to get the players that we've had, Sheringham, York, Cole, like when you were talking about Robbie Fowler as well, we were lucky at the time that we were scoring so many goals. Robbie Fowler was a brilliant player, but we didn't need him. And it's probably the way Liverpool fans are looking at it now. Like you look at maybe Fernandes coming into United and you don't need him. So it's kind of like, yeah, he's a brilliant player and he looks like he could be the best player United have, but you don't need him. So we were delighted with what we got out of Rooney, and we do miss him. We don't have players at that kind of level now anymore.
Yeah.
And, it's sad, but we got great days from Rooney and Rooney over Nigel Clough any day.
And remember, your all-time leading goal scorer is a Scouser. So for any of these lads, these Dublin lads, it's not just that I hate Liverpool fans. I hate Scousers. It's like
you can always remember him celebrating in front of the Cop boys. So
a lot of people celebrating in front of the Cop. Anyway, listen, Aders, we want to Anto, take the floor.
Yeah, well, before we go, because we are in crazy times, and you are the owner of Pro Fitness Gym, so which is done like, you know, you're used to doing a lot of great work, one-on-one work with people, and obviously you've had to change things completely now in the last couple of months. But can you maybe just tell us, like, enlighten us on the type of work that you've been doing, how you've adjusted to that, and how important maybe it is to be doing this kind of fitness work in this current environment?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like anyone that owns their own business, you know, you just had to adapt really quickly. Like we could see this coming, that it was January, it was kind of, we were getting the news about the coronavirus, then February, and you're thinking there'll be some answer to it before it hits Ireland, you know, that we won't get it, you know, we won't get it as bad. And then all of a sudden, bang, and we knew then coming into the middle of March, lockdown. So luckily I'm fairly good tech-wise, so I focus a lot on the business rather than just training people all the time. I do train people every day, but I do focus a lot on growing the business as well. So I had to be good with tech and learning how to use like things like Zoom and running online programs where people were still going to be able to train with us, but doing it from their own house. So again, it isn't the same as coming into the gym. But we're lucky now. We have over 100 people on our online program, and it's helped us stay in business, you know, where we could be going back in August. I think gyms they're looking like August being open again. And if we had to wait till August and nobody was coming into the gym or nobody was training online with us, it's going to be very hard to restart. So luckily we've adapted to going online, and we've got live workouts every day. So we're doing 2 or 3 workouts every day. We do nutrition coaching. So in fairness, the clients are actually seeing more of us. They're just not seeing as much of us in the gym, or any of us in the gym, but they're getting more attention from us now with how much we're able to do online. So as we're talking here on Zoom, we have regular Zoom meetings and virtual sessions every day. So it's kind of the power of technology. On one hand, we probably don't like our kids using the technology as much as they are, but for us running businesses, it's been a savior for the times that we're in.
And if you to join up, Aders, you just go to the Facebook page if you wanted to be a part of this, or
just go onto our Facebook page or profitness.ie, and we have like sign up forms there. So if anyone's interested and like want to come on and do a free session or whatever, everybody's doing online sessions, but we do like to get in touch with clients and make sure that they are getting the most out of the program and not just an online workout that they could get from YouTube. So we do kind of try and do a bit of personal attention as well as being a group program that it is.
Brilliant. Profitness.ie. All right, that is brilliant. Aders, I can't thank you enough, and I can't believe that you put Steven Gerrard ahead of Roy Keane, but that's, you know,
I can't believe you asked me Nigel Clough or Wayne Rooney.
That's the kind of podcast we are. Anyway, thanks a million, Aders. Best of luck with the season when it gets back up again. And I'm sure you'll have a front row seat to watch us lift number 19. Anto, thanks a million as well. And that's it. We'll be back next time.
I've got a quick message from the United fans saying that it is going to be null and void, lads, so don't celebrate too early.
Listen, nothing's going to stop this. All right, lads. All the best.
All right, lads.